Okay, so we are live on Facebook too, and this is our next webinar with Publist founder William, and today it's without Ben. How come?
So today I can definitely, I've been sort of thinking about the market, and it makes sense because Ben has to answer a lot of email and a lot of questions, and so we're trying to take it in shifts now because we weren't expecting this kind of reaction.
I see. All right, so in today's webinar, we'll be discussing the B2B cloud market in 2019 and why it's broken. And as far as I know, we'll be discussing maybe B2C too, right?
Yeah, we'll touch on B2C as well, because I think it's really the entire set of tools that are missing a few things, and that's where the brokenness comes in.
All right, perfect. So for everybody who is watching, my name is Jakub, I'm CMO of PitchGround. I'll be hosting this webinar today. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us in the comment section, either here on Zoom or on the Facebook, on a watch party on Facebook group, or on our Facebook page. And right now, I think without further ado, we can jump right into the press kit so we can maybe understand what Publist is actually doing for the people who are joining for the first time and they have no idea what Publist is.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump on the screen share.
Amazing.
All right, so let's see if making this full screen. All right, so we see full screen.
Yeah, cloud can't be stopped.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with, we'll go back a little bit. So people have been here before. This is probably a relatively familiar set of slides at this point, but it's a convenient way to talk about how we're thinking about things. So the heart of the problem that we want to solve is that as we sort of adopted more and more cloud software, we left something behind that was a very useful part of our workflow. And that was our desktop's ability to centralize and organize all our work and files all in one place. And so with the cloud, we have 10, 12, 14 different applications, and we have data that's sort of siloed in all of them. And so it just exists there, and it has one interface to access it, and there's no interoperability. There's no way to really easily transfer it between your applications. And there's no sort of unifying layer like we had with our desktop file system, where we could store all the work we did in all our applications on the same set of folders. And so obviously having these applications in the cloud today brings some challenges. And as I mentioned, there's limited portability. Everything is scattered across all your different applications. There's very little consistency in the interfaces. So, for example, with DocuSign and Slack and Dropbox, that's 3 different ways of managing files right there. And all of them are, sort of built to do slightly different things and are inconsistent. And then finally, because it's based around the cloud, because it's based around the web and not your desktop, it's disorganized by default. So the organization of it it's just that much harder to manage and that much harder to keep organized. So let's talk, I guess, a little bit about the cloud market. It is obviously so valuable, and it does bring a lot for us as users, and makes it really easy to be collaborative. It makes it really easy to access our data, but obviously it doesn't make it easy to find our data. And so we can get things from anywhere, any internet connected device, but it still makes it difficult that, for that reason, it makes it difficult to organize. And so that's why we think we need a cloud-like solution for what our desktop solved really, really well. So huge market. We'll see 80% of businesses this year tipping over, sort of doing more work in the cloud than on desktops, which is crazy because that means that the web browser has become our sort of primary portal for doing work. And that's not something, I guess, if you looked back from 20, 15, maybe 10 years ago, you wouldn't have guessed that.
Not at all, but I honestly don't remember when I opened Microsoft Word for the last time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's everything happening in Google Docs. I mean, it's
everything
way more easy.
It is, and it really is just everything has become a tab in Chrome, which is great. And Chrome does a really good job of keeping our tabs in order, but that does nothing for the data and the work that we do in each of those applications. They still exist in their own Chrome tab. So I guess to touch on some of the trends that we're looking at and that we also want to wrap into our application, because I think these are really great sort of convenient technologies that are being developed is hyper collaborative software. So Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides definitely pioneered this, or we're one of the pioneering members of this trend, and that allows us to work together so effectively. And that's a real major power of the cloud is powering collaboration, because we can all connect to the same service, and that service can sort of serve as the central nexus for whatever work we're doing. And then we've got knowledge bases and no centralization. So as we've talked a little bit about in our apps webinar, we want to really take a lot of different interesting parts of applications and build them into our sort of core application suite. And so knowledge bases and no centralization is a big piece we want to build.
Now this topic is super interesting. So for everybody who's interested in this app suite, we covered this exact topic yesterday in our very successful webinar. So you can watch the replay on our Facebook page. So yeah.
And then I guess the last three are sort of APIs and internal platforms. So this is we're seeing the rise of sort of the internal app store, but I think we're early into that trend. But APIs are sort of the precursor to this, which have been massively popular for everyone. And we'd like to open up a public API as well. Increasing focus on data control. So obviously with Facebook and privacy concerns and sort of everything that we're hearing in the news today, generally people are a little bit more worried about security and how is my data being used and how is it being moved? And so finally condensing many apps to fewer apps has been a trend we've seen really recently, which has been very interesting because there's been sort of this growth of people using lots of different cloud apps to solve very specific problems. And these apps are becoming sort of more specialized. And then finally, people realize I can't have 20 different applications to solve 20 different specialized problems. We need a few applications that solve a lot of problems really well. And so that sort of concludes the trends that we're noticing and parts that we want to build into Publist. And then finally,
before we'll go on, Will, can you tell me a little bit more about your API which you are building and opening for developers?
Yeah, so there's sort of two parts to that. There's first the REST API, which will be something that will allow you to from any sort of REST supported code or language or service, you'll be able to upload files, you'll be able to manage different parts of your data. You'll be able to authenticate with the application using OAuth, and then be able to build sort of interesting applications on top of that can send into Publist. The second piece of our API is more of it's more of a software development kit in a way, because as I mentioned with our app platform that we're looking at building, and this will come after our app suite. So our app suite will come out, and that'll be sort of our Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, as well as a bunch of other applications in our one sort of very collaborative productivity suite. And then the API that I talked about here is going to let third-party developers build their own applications, and sort of the sky is the limit there for what they can do. I mean, think about how many different applications you can download on your desktop. We'd like to reach the same level of support where if you have a Word doc that's older, say from 2005 or something like that, there will be an application that'll be able to open old Word docs, or edit images, or annotate PDFs, or help you manage passwords. There's sort of there's like infinite potential there for developers to use that part of the API to build really interesting applications on top of Publist.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So I guess without further ado, Publist, as I've sort of been leading up to, is we're aiming to be this central place to bridge your desktop and cloud data. And we really want to first solve the problem of centralizing all your data and the work that you do and produce with the tools you use. So this makes it really easy to know that everything that you need to proceed through your work and proceed through being productive is available in Publist and is easy to download or access or do whatever you need to do with it. And then following that, the next piece we'd like to do, sort of solve and make simpler, is centralizing actually doing the work. And so that comes with our app suite and applications within Publist, and that'll let you take your files and everything and just open them right in Publist and start working right there. So I think that'll be really, really interesting. And it's something that, in our 12-month roadmap, our app suite will come out. And then by the end of the 12-month roadmap, we'll have finished our third-party developer SDK and the parts we need to allow anybody to build apps on top of Publist and publish them in an app store.
Will, I think we can show the public roadmap in the end of the webinar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I really like about what you're saying is that you're not really competing with all these cloud services, but you are actually building a service on top of them, which is actually a really smart step. Like that, you're bringing together all these niche and very narrow-oriented services, as you discussed, as you mentioned before, and you're making them accessible from one place. It's amazing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think you make a really good point. Definitely exactly what we want to do. We don't, that's why I think for us, we don't see ourselves as a cloud storage provider as much as we see ourselves as more of a, cloud apps provider. And so storage is the first app that we've worked on because it's something that everybody needs. And as I mentioned, the first thing we need to solve is before we can centralize doing the work, we want to centralize saving the work and managing the work and organizing the work. And so once we've got that, we've got the desktop file system piece of a desktop, and then we can start to build applications on top of that. And yes, exactly. Thank you for making that point.
All right, I think we can move on to our main topic, which is B2B cloud market in 2019. I think you actually mentioned a few things already in the press kit and in the introduction presentation. But what would you say that is like number one thing? What can be actually done better, and why it's B2B/B2C cloud market in 2019 quote unquote broken?
So, as I've mentioned, I think there's sort of an interesting catch to that statement, and I do think it's broken, but it's not broken in the way that you would necessarily assume. We have an incredible set of applications that we can use today. I mean, the cloud has brought phenomenal innovation, and it has brought access to better tools to solve our problems than we've ever had before, and better tools to work together than we've ever had before. So in that way, I think that the cloud is a phenomenally innovative tool. But at the same time, the way the cloud is architected, it makes it very difficult to have parts of what made our desktops really easy to work with and special. And that's sort of an underlying layer to unify things and to give some consistency to the way that our data is stored and managed and organized. And I think that the cloud is broken in the sense that it's incredibly inconsistent. There is, between services, there's no way to easily move your data. There's no way to take data from different services and somehow find a way to use it together, because it's just so different. Everybody has a different way of doing things, a different way of organizing things, and a different way of thinking about data that we sort of lose this massively convenient part and the cloud has left that behind because we're sort of stuck in these silos that we work in. Google Docs, and we work in Dropbox, and we work in Slack, and we work in all these different places. But we have to become sort of travelers constantly in transit between these different services as we sort of do our work in the cloud.
All right, you mentioned multiple times desktop. So what the hell was so good about desktop?
Yeah, great question. So I think that the interesting piece that we're really looking at here is that we've seen so many different parts of the workflows we had sort of pre-cloud. Obviously, it's a slow transition to the cloud. So is there really a pre-cloud, post-cloud that can be well defined? I would say no. But what we had with our desktops was a kind of universal way to organize things. And every application, while doing very different things and creating very different data and being used in very different ways, all ended up in the same place at the end of the day. They were all sitting in a folder on your computer where the data that they produced could also sit, and the data that other applications produce could also sit. And today, the idea of being able to open a Google Doc in another text editor on the web it's impossible. It's crazy. You can get special converter services, but just the fact that those exist sort of illustrate my point, because I can open a Word doc in Pages on my Mac, or I can open, I can open plenty of text documents, and I can open images in plenty of image editors on my computer. And I can certainly use a lot of different applications to edit a lot of different files. Because they all have this consistent underlying framework that lets them work together really, really well. So there's no sort of the glue between our work was our desktop file system, because everything sort of talked the same language, and everything was able to understand how to read data from everything else. So when you create a Word file, the file exists on your computer, and then that file could theoretically be looked at by any application in your computer if you chose to open it and give it to that application. The cloud there's nothing like that for the cloud. And I think that's the core piece that was left behind from our desktops as we sort of jumped into Chrome or Safari or Firefox as our primary portal to doing our work.
That's interesting, but you mentioned multiple times that we are using like a lot of apps in our workflow, Slack, Gmail, Dropbox, pCloud, and all these different apps. Do you have a data how many apps people use on average?
Yeah, the average is actually 12 applications, which seems high, but when you think about it, it's pretty easy to rattle off like 8 to 10 applications that you use, consistently. You've got your cloud storages, you have your messaging services, you have plenty of different sort of marketing tools, you have other accounts to organize your cloud, you have APIs, you have there's all those little things that you're using. You've got anything from Cloud App to manage your screenshots. There's kind of like lots and lots of specialized little applications that you almost don't think about using, but represent another silo where your data lives. And so I'd say one of the most useful parts for me about Publist has been that there's, I can know that all my files are sort of in Google Drive, and I can think, because I have hundreds and hundreds of files in Google Drive, I have hundreds and hundreds of files in Dropbox, but it's the DocuSign documents, it's the Slack documents, it's the Gmail attachments, it's the files that pile up in places that aren't necessarily going to come to mind as major stores of files. But I have, almost as many files in my Gmail attachments as I do in Google Drive. And so it's really inconvenient to have these things that aren't really file systems, that aren't really designed to be great at managing files or make that process simple, be sort of massive stores of my files.
I see. Let's talk about another really big topic, because if we have our files stored on 12 different applications, what is actually happening with them in terms of security?
Right. So a lot of these applications are sort of based on the same core provider. So today in the cloud, there's a few service providers who provide all the servers and storage and basically the hardware that runs everything that these applications would need to do. And so
who are these providers?
So that's Google. It would be Amazon's probably the largest one, Google Cloud. Microsoft has been a rising star in the space.
You mean Azure, or how does
Azure? Yes.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of the big three. And then there's certainly a few others, like honorable mentions I would say is DigitalOcean. The cloud storage space, there's a company called Backblaze, which I've been a big fan of for a long time, and they produce phenomenal storage hardware. And so there's a number of these providers, but there's the big three are where everybody ends up. And
the reason why there are so few of them is because they actually own the hardware. They own all the expensive stuff in their basements and all the servers and everything, right?
Exactly. It definitely is hard to start a cloud service provider.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess to continue, these applications use these cloud service providers to run everything and store everything. And so interestingly, the cloud service providers take care of a lot of the security concerns that you would traditionally think about when thinking about how is my data secured. So they run firewalls, they run, network intrusion, they run sort of device security, they run device encryption. Those servers are stored in literally guarded data centers that are sort of hardened and have an airport level of security. And so the physical devices and access to them over a network is actually pretty much taken care of, which is an incredibly convenient point of these cloud service providers. So no hacker can just access their network and pull files or pull data or do anything with those servers, because that it would destroy their reputation as a cloud service provider. And so those parts are taken care of. The interesting pieces today are making sure that you have SSL security. So HTTPS is now pretty much required on the internet because Chrome has made it. HTTPS has now overtaken HTTP as the Chrome's primary way of calling a website secure. And so that takes care of data moving between the server and between your client. And then finally, obviously, the weakest link is actually the services themselves. So it's how people, like, for example, we've seen this a lot with Facebook. We've seen a lot of sort of providers getting in trouble for mismanaging data recently. And so that's why for us at Publist, it's been a really big focus is we want to make sure that data is rock solid in terms of security. And what we're doing is sort of follows all the best practices and uses the latest stuff available to us. So when we think about security, obviously the first thing that comes to mind for us is encryption. Because we work with a lot of files, we want to make sure that data is quite literally irrecoverable to anybody but the user who uploaded those files. And so that's where encryption comes in. We run our storage and some of our hardware on Amazon. We're actually sort of split between Google and Amazon because they offer different benefits. But Amazon at the end of the day made more sense and was more secure for storage. So we run some of our hardware there and then a little bit on Backblaze. And then we're going to make DigitalOcean available as an actual additional storage option as part of our roadmap. And so back to my point, the work we do to make sure the files are stored securely and sort of managed is to think about encryption, think about how we can sort of have zero knowledge about what those files do and how we can minimize the amount of data we store. And so we try to store for just enough to give you, understand what the file is, to give you a title, a type, whether it's an image or a PDF or something like that, but not a whole lot else. And so I hope that kind of gets at your question.
Yeah, totally. Thanks a lot. I think you can quickly show Publist, so we don't watch the same slide. And I'll be asking another question. So one of top data storage initiatives for 2019 is how to optimize the existing use of cloud. Because these companies and these big companies actually have a lot of files and they're facing the problem that they need to optimize them. They need to optimize their storage in a better way. What is actually your point of view on this?
So by your question, they need to optimize their storage in a better way. So can you give me an example of what you're thinking about?
Let's say that I'm a huge company, let's say Fortune 500 company, and all these data I'm storing for last 5 years are becoming outdated. How do I actually handle the situation so I can actually handle my storage, my cloud storage in a good way, so it won't be still bigger and bigger?
I see. So I guess there's a few ways that people solve those problems. Obviously, there's a little bit to do with how data changes over time. So file formats can change, applications that read files can go away. But that's becoming less and less common, particularly with the cloud, because data is usually relatively consistently formatted. That is one nice thing about the cloud, is at the end of the day, most of the data lives in a database. So you can assume that the structure that the data follows is a table. But to look at how obviously we're collecting so much data and companies are just acquiring more and more data and building just massive pools of data internally and externally. Obviously, compression is getting better and better. But I'd say one of the best things that can put off some of the worry that people may have about how businesses are managing the increasing amount of data we deal with is just that storage is getting better and better, and storage is getting cheaper, and hard drive space is becoming more and more available, particularly in the cloud. I mean, just a decade ago, cloud storage was so expensive compared to what it is now. I mean, it's the sort of going rate for a gigabyte of cloud storage is about 2 cents. And so that's where, we wanted to pass that with Publist. We wanted to pass that on to our users. And that's why we make S3 available as a storage. So you can set up your own Amazon S3 bucket and pay 2 cents a gigabyte to store your data instead of using Publist storage. Because storage for us isn't the focus. And so I think that businesses that are focused on storage and do worry about, how they manage their data, have a lot of tools available to them to work on it.
Amazing. All right, Will, I think we can quickly jump into actually show us how Publist works before you will show us your public roadmap.
Yeah. So this may be somewhat familiar to those who've been here before, and I thank you for your patience and for enjoying this little walkthrough of Publist each time. So I guess to start, what Publist is obviously we are a cloud storage, and so we provide an easy place to store your files. You can take files and drag and drop them in. So here's a PDF. This is actually the press tour deck that we spent so much time on one slide for. And so you can upload files, but you can also get files from all your applications. So we have to offer storage to make it easy to organize and centralize your work. And so we can provide that one place for your files to go. But where I think are really valuable for most people is helping to take all those different silos in the cloud that I talked about, all those different places where our files live that are so different and sort of inconsistent to access, and putting them right in one place for you. So, I mentioned Gmail. I love it for my Gmail attachments because I can get access to everything all in one place. And, I just look at the file, I say, okay, this is what I need. And I can move that file to any of my storages. And we'll see that file just copies right over from Gmail and is now stored in this folder. And so, I've got some files in Trello, I've got files in OneDrive, I have files in Slack, keyCloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, and I can have them all sort of centrally available to me right here. And so, everything that I need is immediately available. And then we've got sort of a laundry list of applications that we support now, and we have a ton of applications that we want to support in coming weeks. And so as I've mentioned before, obviously I'm the one developer working on this. And so we're sort of single channel as it comes to features. We can work on one thing at a time, which is, I wish we could work on that many more things because there's so much that I want to build for you guys. But this, to start, we're doing it feature by feature. So we're sort of picking and choosing everything that people are requesting and doing that very carefully. So integrations will be coming out, but we're also building features as well.
All right, amazing. Can you please jump quickly into public roadmap so we can see what are we actually can wait in the future?
Absolutely. So here is
now before you will find it, you were actually showing us something. We're looking still on a slide.
Oh, I've been sharing my screen on the wrong thing. Oh,
really?
Man. I was just going all around Publist and showing everything that was going on. Oh,
no,
man.
I mean the slide which was there, it sort of made sense. So I didn't actually.
Well, oh man, I just did this whole thing. Okay, well, here's what I was what everybody just heard me talking through, babbling through with a slide in the background rather than the actual thing I'm showing. Was here's Publist, and so as I mentioned, here's our cloud storage piece. This is where you can upload files, so you can just easily store things from your desktop and centralize data that you get from the internet or wherever that you might need to upload. So that's our cloud storage piece. This also allows you to take files from all your different applications. So as I mentioned, here's sort of the long list of different apps that I have files in, and I for one, as I mentioned, really like Gmail. Because finding attachments in Gmail has been a huge pain in my butt. And I have to sort of dig through a lot of different emails to get all the different attachments that I use. All of them. And so this makes it really easy to just drag things to another folder, and we'll see that it just copies over. And now it's saved right in here, and I can just go and open that up, and it'll load, and that's that. And so we really make it easy to take files from any application that you're using today, and here's the list of apps we support right now, and we've got a lot coming soon, and take those files and put them into one sort of central organization system where you're able to access them again and again and again without going to different apps and without thinking about, what app is that file in. Instead, you just think, okay, I own this file, so I should be able to get it. And it's in my organization system that I have designed, rather than that DocuSign has designed, or Box has designed, or PitchGround has designed.
Totally.
So that's, I apologize that everybody just had to sit.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Here's Publist. So let me know, I think you were saying something before we discovered this.
Oh yeah, can you show us the public roadmap?
Absolutely. So here is our roadmap. So here's our roadmap. This is something that we're really, really proud of and really excited about. I think we've got a lot of big ideas that we're excited to build and share with you guys. So we've been working on this roadmap is, as I've mentioned, a little bit out of order because we've been really focused on taking requests from everybody and in sort of engaging with everyone who's using Publist. And we've gotten phenomenal support for a lot of different ideas. And so we're sort of picking the ones that were most supported and building those instead of in the order that we thought we would build them, because we want to deliver features for you guys and deliver the things that you want most. And so the things that we're looking at are, as I mentioned, are sort of the way we look at encryption. And we'll talk about this more in our security webinar. But we want to be building a client-side encrypted storage in addition to the encrypted Publist storage. So this will be true zero-knowledge encryption. Your files will move up from your desktop and be encrypted right on the client. So they'll never, an unencrypted version of the file will never touch our servers. So very, very safe way to store files. As I mentioned, lots of new integrations. We want to add file versioning, retention, and a trash can, advanced file sorting. This includes tags and being able to sort by file type, users, dates. We want to overhaul search so that it can search full text. So we can get PDF search, Google Docs search, Word doc search, and be able to search the contents of those documents. File embedding, that's been something that we've talked a lot about in the groups and people have really enjoyed. White labeling, that will also be coming. We haven't quite figured out the extent to which we're going to make things white labelable. I believe it'll be pretty standard with how people would expect it to be. But that's sort of something that we're discussing with people in the groups as well. And again, we want to have this be really discussion driven. We want Publist to be, you're all sort of investing in Publist. And so we want it to be driven as much by you as it is by us and hold to our vision, but let you guys decide how we get there. And so finally, last few things I mentioned, storage backend. So you'll be able to bring your own storage because for us, storage is a feature. It's not the product. We don't want to just sell you cloud storage. We want to sell you so much more. And so being able to save documents into connected apps. So I could take something from pCloud and drag it to Google Drive, and it would just, Publist would handle moving it between them. Drive sharing. This is something that we are working on as quickly as we can because this has been hugely requested. So we're going to make it really easy to add members to all of your different storage drives, just like you do Trello boards, actually. If anyone here is familiar with Trello, which I'm sure some of you are, we will be actually copying their authentication system in the way that they handle that. Because I think that Trello does it really, really elegantly. And I think that cloud storage today kind of does it as this spider web of shared links, which is a little bit less convenient. Sharing links portal to manage the links you do share, a Chrome extension, download manager, overhauling our media player. We will be releasing an iOS and Android app within the year. And then finally, the big one, our collaborative work app suite. This is our answer to Google Drive. This is our answer to companies like Notion, Airtable. We'd like to take sort of the best features from the latest applications and take the latest pieces of technology and bring them all together into this really, really cool suite of apps that you can use to do a lot of the work that you need to do, whether it's writing or tabular data or publishing content. And then finally, as I touched on briefly, our third-party apps platform will be the last thing that we finish, but will certainly be something we're really excited about getting done because that's going to open up the possibilities to functionality within Publist that we can't even imagine.
I love it. All right, so guys, the most important thing is that like all the things Will just mentioned, you will get if you get your Publist license. It means that you will pay $49 now, and you will get access to all the future updates and features, which is pretty no-brainer if you ask me. And now there comes some limitations, of course, with $49 lifetime, but we listen to you, and you can actually buy these add-on packs, which means that you can increase the accounts per app. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a Google Gmail account and you have 2 email addresses. Now this this license will be right for you, but if you would like to add more accounts, more Gmail accounts, now 2 accounts won't be enough. So what you can do is just buy this Publist add-on pack, and it will give you 5 account integrations. Now there are more licenses for you available. 2 terabytes for $295, 4 terabytes for $495, and 6 terabytes for $695. And the best thing about the most highest plan is that you get unlimited accounts per app. So it really doesn't matter if you have like 100 Gmail accounts. Now this is completely for you. Now you can check everything here on pitchground.com/products/Publist with capital P, and read all about the features. You can watch some webinars. You can watch some reviews from Konstantin and from Philip, and we'll be adding more and more because you guys seem to love it. So that's about it. Make sure you will go to pitchground.com/products/Publist with capital P and get your license right now. Now, if you're not still sure, you can join us on next webinars. We are doing webinars every day this week. And today we discussed understanding the B2B cloud market in 2019. Tomorrow, we will talk about how to quickly increase your productivity with Publist, because in the end, like all this bringing these cloud storage providers under one roof is all about increasing productivity and being faster. And then there's a public security overview. How safe are your files? Now, this is very requested topic into webinar. So we'll discuss if your files are actually safe. They are, don't worry. But Ben and Will tell you how exactly they are solving the security. Then on Thursday, workflow optimization hacks 101 with Publist. And then on Friday, finally, how to securely share, sync, and migrate your data. So don't forget to join us tomorrow. You can do it on publist.pitchground.com and sign up for our free webinars. And if you are actually sure that Publist is for you, go to pitchground.com/products/Publist with capital P. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining. I don't see actually any questions. And I think we will see you tomorrow. Ben, Will, is there anything you would like to add?
I just want to say thanks guys for all the support and for all the feedback, and please feel free to email me anytime, will@publist.app. I just love hearing from you guys and love being able to build as much as I can for you. And so thank you so much for everything that you have said so far and all the support that you've given. So I just appreciate that.
I mean, the feedback is amazing, just to see how people are actually starting to use your app. I think for a startup founder point of view, it must be like really rewarding feeling.
It's like Christmas. There's nothing better. It really is. It's quite nice.
Yeah, I can say. All right, Will, it was nice talking to you. This is amazing as usual, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Jacob. Bye, guys.
All right, bye.